Recruiters and business owners, it's time to have your say on the state of performance development in recruitment. Brought to you by Rookie to Recruiter and Hector, and sponsored by the Team Network, we're inviting you to take part in this free survey. The survey is the largest of its type in the recruitment and L&D sector and is designed to shape the future of our industry. So click the link in the description below and complete the survey for free, and you qualify for a whole range of prizes which are highlighted on the website. We look forward to your responses and thank you very much for participating.
Welcome back to another episode of RecTalk. I'm your host, Nitin Sharma, founder, CEO of RecTools.io and a few other different projects which I'm sure will be launched by the time this goes out. My guest today is here to talk about that one thing that I seem to always end up talking about, which is recruitment marketing and how marketing has a seat at the table, finally, and is being taken seriously in this industry that we call recruitment. You'll know him from being a group marketing director at Recruitment Entrepreneur and then a group marketing director at 11 Investments, and now the proud owner of Prominence. And here to kind of unpick that and tell us a little bit about how that came about, Tom Burkinshaw. Tom, appreciate you taking the time to come up today.
Appreciate you having me, and thanks for the intro.
No, there you go. Right, so look, you've been in that investment world space and kind of marketing and providing marketing services for the investments that your employers have made. So it kind of makes sense to sort of be like, actually, I can maybe turn my hand to this. But tell me about Prominence. Where did that come about from? What was it about that made you go, I need to get in this?
So I think, like you said, for whatever reason, I landed in portfolio business, even from when early 20s in property. The first company I worked for in the marketing side, then started doing acquisitions. They got bigger. I then moved on to a bigger group, which flew in London, and we had something like 50 brands. Kind of thought, we did this huge rebrand, and I thought I went back to an old job, and I'm like, this isn't really scratching that itch that I want to be doing more. It wasn't the right thing. So I was like, right, I'm going to take some time out. So I was living in West London at the time, looked to take some time out, kind of as you do, scan the job boards, and then a very similar portfolio role came up, looking for someone like marketing ops, looking after a variety of sectors, with the predominant one being recruitment. Now I had zero experience in that. So anyway, reached out, got in touch, independently owned private equity firm, and so ended up getting the job. And it was recruitment, crisis management, property development, like an array of stuff.
Yeah.
And I was, arguably very quickly out of my depth, but very quickly back in it again, because everything that they were doing was very similar to what I'd done before for the last decade. The recruitment side and against property, there's a lot of similar nuances. So then jump forward, I'd end up working them for 5 years. He then went on to a huge exit. I was like, right, I'm going to take some time out. Again, looking at the job boards, 3, 4, had my first child. I was like, it'd be nice to take 6 months out. An opportunity at Recruitment Entrepreneur came up through a friend who I used to work with in a estate agency, and said, oh, look, James Khan's hiring. Just chatting to my wife, and it's kind of like one of those things. It's like, I said I'd take some time out with my youngest, and Emma was like, well, it won't come around again, just see what happens.
That's it. These sorts of things don't come around that often, right? So you've almost got to be like, okay, I can maybe take some time out in the future.
Yeah.
And so, also I'm throwing my name in the hat, right? There might be much better people for this job than I am, so...
And I'll be honest, that's where I sat at that point, was I've got nothing to lose, and arguably James Khan, Dragon's Den, recruitment for decades, very well known. What would I bring to the table? And I think it was a bit of an opportunist punt, and ended up getting it. And so in hindsight, it was great. And so I worked there for a couple of years. And to your point, that marketing was very heavy on the portfolio. We were launching, we were scaling, we were driving exits. So the marketing, operations, finance, the back office support was a real focus.
Yeah.
So from a career perspective, it was fantastic. Got to the point, I'd had 2 kids, I was expecting my third, and I was like, right, I've launched international.
Now I'm going to take that.
Yeah, and I launched the international side of it in terms of Australia, America, and things like that. So I was a bit like, right, I've now done it. I'm now going to take some time out. And another opportunity came up with my recent company. And again, it was one of those things. It's like, if you don't do it, you're never going to know. Just had my third kid. So I took the summer out, which was lovely with the kids, kind of 3-4 months. And then jumping forward to Prominence, I'd known Chris South, who was the original owner of Prominence, who set it up a decade ago. Kind of a tech entrepreneur, ex-recruiter, then marketing recruiter, very interesting guy. And he rang me and was like, oh, look, James Kahn, you know a couple of other people. Would you be interested in just like pitching Prominence to these people? That there may be like a referral opportunity. And it's like, this is what we do. And he'd already pitched Prominence to me and Recruitment Entrepreneur a few years before, because we had the capital to grow. It wasn't anything that we were doing. But he ran a marketing automation company as well called Roy AI. And it was in its infancy at the time. And so we got a good deal and it worked really well. It embedded into job adders seamlessly. So I ended up working with Chris at RE. We got on like house on fire, came on podcasts, we did stuff together. We put it into 6, 7, 8 businesses. And so we had a really good like connection.
Yeah, so you start building out quite a bit of it,
Yeah, I mean, it was great. And so he was based in New Zealand, so he'd come over, we'd have dinner, have drinks. And then, so he reached out and said, look, I'm thinking about selling Prominence. And so I was like, look, I can ask James, I can ask a few people, I don't know many. And then a few bottles of wines later, between my wife and I, and she's like, you keep saying you want to take time out. You keep saying you want to do your own thing. Just ask him if you can buy it. So I rang him, I was like, look, are you looking to sail off into the sunset forever and a day on some
Good
mega
news,
yacht?
bad news. Good news is I found you a buyer.
Bad news is
it's me.
that yacht's a dinghy. And so he was just like blown. He was like, this is awesome, because all the stuff we talked about Prominence before, we were super aligned. And so, we had that conversation about 9 months ago. And very quickly we kind of had it valued, agreed a price, what we thought was fair and reasonable. Luckily I'm in the world where people were able to support me and help me in that process. And I've obviously never done an acquisition before, so around the world where it happens, and I know like how difficult it can be, how many fail. So I was quite open-minded that the success rate of this, there was more chance of it not going through than it going through, especially as it's a group of companies, it's 4 businesses, New Zealand, Australia, Malaysia and London. And to buy a business in the UK has its own pain points. To do it in Malaysia, Australia and New Zealand, I've learned very quickly, if I know now, back then, it would have scared me off and I wouldn't have done it in hindsight. Like I just wouldn't have done, that kind of juggling 3 kids.
Yeah.
We were doing a big property development project on the house. I just started a job at 11 Investments that I absolutely loved with really, really good people. So for me, it was really like, it's kind of bittersweet.
It's got to be really good right now, taking on a massive project.
Yeah. And it was like, is this the right time? And going back to what we said before, it's like, it won't come back around again. So I was like, and I just went with it. So I was like, okay, well, let's see where it goes. And if it falls out of bed at any point, you tried, and there were times over the 9 months where late nights, calls with lawyers, calls with accountants, different side of the world, different time zones. I'm thinking, what am I doing? I've just had a newborn. Like, is this what I want to do? And I've got a really good company that I'm working for. And I think I've always wanted to do something on my own. I've always looked after portfolios, and part of that is scaling businesses. And I've loved the marketing side of it and the impact of now people thinking, I want to scale my business, let's look to marketing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, the reasons why I bought it, and was like, right, what are the 3 reasons why you want to do this? Like, is there going to be value in this business going forward? Because if there isn't, don't buy it. And at that time, the market hasn't been great over the last 18 months. Prior to that, the first 12 were quite good after COVID. So it was kind of an educated gamble. Prominence had been around, it had a really good reputation. Started off in Australia, New Zealand side, came over to the UK about 5 years ago. And so doing the due diligence, it was learning about the clients, the length of tenure. Some of them have been with them since the start.
Yeah.
The staff retention's really high. So all these little points where you're looking at buying a business going, what does good look like? What will be important going forward to make us be able to grow this successfully, organically, without it being it's going to be a scale to an exit, because that's not what I was going to do. It had all those key attributes. So I'm sitting there going, okay, there's kind of green light here, green light there. It's looking good. And so the ultimate decision to kind of sign on that dotted line was, it's a huge risk. It's a huge amount of money. But ultimately, I thought to myself, it's what I've been doing for nearly 2 decades, definitely in the last decade. And
if I can't do this, then
what can I do? Yeah. And so it was a bit of like, back yourself now or don't. And that's kind of, you just do it. and you just deal with the consequences later, I think.
Yeah, well, it's a mentality thing, isn't it? And I suppose given there's almost the background of kind of where you've been and the sorts of people that you've kind of had around you, you've almost seen both the successes and the failures of people who do back themselves and give it a go and take a punt on themselves and that kind of thing. And yeah, it's a balancing act, isn't it? It's kind of like, okay, more people tend to fail than succeed when they enter this kind of realm. But the ones that succeed seem infinitely happier and glad they did it. And actually, the other side of it is, and one thing I've noticed is, the ones that don't succeed, even they are kind of glad that they did what they did and go through that journey. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
So you're kind of like, oh, okay, yeah. So what's if I'm going to sit here and end up in the same position, then I may as well try and do it. Why not?
Do it for yourself. And I think, being in the business where you see the founders come in from, being like excellent recruiters and suddenly doing really well, and we've learnt what the attributes of success were looking like. And so I've learnt from that. I've also seen the negatives of why they failed, all the way from basic admin to top leadership. And I'm taking all that learning and hoping I get most of it right with this venture. And I think, to your point, if I was 3 years down the line, kids a bit older, in the same job, I wouldn't have been disappointed. I would have regretted my decision to just not try to go for it. I would rather try and fail, to your point, than not try at all.
Yeah.
But also, and I wouldn't class myself as an entrepreneur compared to many people that I've met, who at 21, 22, 23 take these huge risks, these huge gambles that they're setting up. And I'm definitely more of like, take your time, process-driven, data-driven, think about it.
Does that make you any less of an entrepreneur, though?
I'm a slower entrepreneur.
But does... Yeah, I don't. By its very definition, is an entrepreneur someone that jumps at every opportunity, or is it that actually it's someone who eventually backs themselves? Right?
Yeah. And I think that's probably a good way of looking at it. I'm just a slightly older entrepreneur, but then again, there's a lot of people that do that, and I think, even 10 years ago, I wouldn't have had the confidence to do it. Even arguably 5 years ago, I probably wouldn't have had the confidence to, put not in a drastic way, put everything on the line, but kind of to put a lot on the line and give up a great career with great people.
I want to touch on that because I know a few people at 11 Investments, and they all say that. What's so great about working at 11 Investments? Because everybody I speak to is a great place to be, great culture, great people, that kind of thing. And even the portfolios that you've invested in, there's very few that would be like, that was a mistake. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas compared to some of the other investment houses that are in that space, do you know?
Yeah.
So
I think
let's give them a nod, right? So,
100%. And I think, generally one of the hardest conversations I had to have was handing in my notice when I'd only been there kind of 9-10 months. And my first thing was like, I want to leave, but I want to stay. And that's what I said to the founders. I was like, this is going to sound like Tom wants his cake and eats it, but I also I really don't want to leave.
Yeah.
And I think, to answer your question is what makes them different. I think, arguably they're three youngish guys that were great recruiters that grew through research really effectively and really well, that obviously made a sensible move to reinvest that money and kind of carried on with the same principles, same values, and brought in good people to support them. The difference with them is we have a huge London office in Soho, Tottenham Court Road, Soho Square, and they have everybody in the office. It's, whether you're pro hybrid, pro working from home or whatever, our attitude is we've got a huge amount of people in the office every Tuesday and Thursday, and the recruiters then pick another day that they're in with their team. So if you want to go home and do your admin and call it a Friday, the trust is there that you're going to crack on and do it. We hire from really young to well-established recruiters, but they're always learning, and we're investing in different sectors. We're working with people who have unbelievable career backgrounds, and there's not one person, including the founders, that sit there and go, it's my way or the highway, I know it all.
It's an interesting kind of viewpoint, but yeah, I think I'm an advocate for you no matter where you are in your life or career, you should be going into every interaction with what can I learn from this person, right? And so that leans in very much so with the kind of being in an office, being around people. you have now invested in an international business where you can't be in Malaysia and New Zealand and Australia all the time, right? In fact, arguably, you can't be there as much as you'd probably want to be or like to be, right?
Yeah.
So how do you then manage that? Because culture is important and we get that, but we've got to crack this kind of model, right? Where we are able to impart wisdom and knowledge and experience to others in a kind of long distance fashion.
And it's the hardest thing that I think I'm going to have to crack by far, because I've been in businesses that have grown far too fast and lost culture, which started off with a great culture. I've worked in businesses that have just never had a good culture, and I've worked in businesses like 11 Investments that culture and values are everything, and that has transcended through the people. So buying Prominence is like, okay, how are you going to do that? Like, you've seen it done badly and you've seen it done well, so you know how it can pan out.
So it sounds like, because 11 Investments got a similar setup, but RE have got, again, all their portfolio businesses kind of in the same buildings.
RE don't. They're based around the UK.
Oh, okay.
So they have a couple in their head office.
Oh, right, okay. It's been a while since I was last there. But
Yeah.
they used to have like one of the banker desks and stuff like that.
And there's a couple in there.
Yeah, okay.
You know, and that's the difference between RE and 11 Investments. Ours is like, you've got to be in London.
Yeah. My point here then is that you're now going to be providing outsourced marketing services to a client base where you can't be there every day, or even with your clients. Let's look just in the UK market.
Yeah.
You can't be at their offices, right? Monday I'm in this one, Tuesday I'm in this one, Wednesday I'm in this one, because you're not going to be able to split yourself that much, right? So how it's difficult to, because how do you then feel part of that business?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think pre-COVID, and obviously I've never done agency per se, but I've worked with a lot of agencies. I've now got an unbelievable amount of respect for agencies pre-COVID, because you have to be in office 5 days a week. You have to have the marketing team. Obviously, like, you have to get the culture. If you don't get the culture, it's not going to work. And not that anything good came of COVID all those years, but if there was a silver lining, it learned that actually adults are responsible. The good ones and the successful people do work really hard. They will openly admit that they do also like being in the office. So I guess for me, it's being good at marketing and sales enablement for all of these businesses. And I had the discussion recently with the managing director, Amber, is how do we embed better? And I think that will increase our success with our clients. I mean, so far we've got clients that, we're fortunate enough that the tenure's really long. One of my personal KPIs is how do we make that longer? And it isn't sitting on a Teams call. I would rather pay a hell of a lot of money on travel expenses for all the teams and senior account managers and marketers that we've got to go and embed themselves in those businesses. So, that's a personal business objective, and I think you need to do that. I don't think you need to do that 5 days a week. And I've learned in the portfolio world that actually you really don't. If you have a good rapport, a good network, and a founder that understands the value of marketing, then actually you'll have a really good comms. As long as you are seeing them frequently, you are having open comms on Teams, and they are open to picking up the phone when you call them, then arguably sales and marketing don't work together 5 days a week.
Yeah.
So the outsource side of things scares me less now. I definitely wouldn't have bought Prominence 5-6 years ago, because I probably wasn't that courageous entrepreneur back then. So I think it works now. And I think from a P&L model, the last 2 years, we saw a lot of C-suite people being made redundant in the last 18 months, particularly marketing, but, across C-suite as well. And outsourcing picked up.
Yeah. I think the general consensus across kind of multiple businesses and industry is that outsourcing provides better value oftentimes than having in-house, right? And we've seen that not just in the recruitment industry, but kind of across the board. Let's focus on marketing then for a minute, because you've obviously seen it go from being essentially considered a colouring in department, and can you just make a few posts and can you just put together a presentation because we're going for a PSL pitch, remember those?
Yeah.
To then now it's like the central function for candidate attraction and client awareness, right? Because for me, that's what your marketing team should be in your recruitment business. How do we attract candidates to the business, and how do we make clients aware that we exist, right? How's that journey kind of developed? Where do you think this importance has come from?
So it's a really interesting one. When I first started out in the property world, there had to be a marketing department. The CEO was the ex-MD of Foxton, so brand to him was pivotal to success. It wasn't so much a sales enablement tool at the time. I think this was pre-social media, not that I want to show my age, but where your website was everything.
Yeah.
But and I don't know exactly what percentage it was, but it was like 60% return on investment, 40% branding. And if you look at the last 15 years, data's everything. And you can now, from a marketing attribution model, you can pretty much get 90%. And that people are really happy with that. You go into board meetings and you justify where you've brought value to the business over a short period of time, over a long period of time, through SEO, website, leads, candidates. It's then easily done. I'd say 15 years ago, you would never get a founder or a CEO of a business coming to the marketing team going, I want to scale, the head of marketing or marketing director or CMO, let's have a conversation.
Sit down, let's talk.
It just wouldn't have happened. 2 of our clients in the last week have come to us and gone, we want to scale in 2025. We're seeing a pickup in H2. Can we have a conversation? They're not sitting there going, let's get the sales director in. And sure, they're having those conversations and the kind of business strategy going, how many sales people
there's been a real shift towards,
Absolutely.
right, you need to tell me how to do this,
Yeah.
rather than we're expanding.
Yeah.
So I'm going to direct it. I'm giving you a directive of, here's the things that I need from you as a marketing director. It's now, take a seat.
Let's have a
Here's
conversation.
the plan. Help.
Yeah.
Roadmap this for me.
Yeah. Here's our business objectives and our KPIs and our strategy, and this is what we want out of next year. How do we scale that from a marketing function? And before, I kind of think of it as like, if ever it was recruitment firms like a brain, you've got the left side and the right side, the right being sales and the left being marketing. And, will it ever be 50-50? No, but arguably I wouldn't ever expect it to be. The quick money, the invoices coming in every month, the placements, that will always take precedence. But what you're seeing on the left side of the brain is 15 years ago, it was kind of 5-10%, maybe 20%. All data was coming in, social media coming, okay, we're seeing return on investment here. It's kind of 35, and now it's kind of 40% and 60%. And I think if every company had that mentality, they would be successful. Because the answers are, let's get another recruiter in, a fresh grad and just make some money. Sure, you'll make money out of that. But for the long term, will that be a good business strategy? I would argue most of the time that probably won't work out for the long term. If you invested in marketing, whether it's outsourced or you get a marketing exec with a couple of years' experience, that's starting to build a business. And I think that's where the longevity and where good recruitment firms are really seeing value.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'll completely agree. It's interesting. I think for it's almost like there's 3 elements to it, and historically, recruitment agencies have always put way too much emphasis on the recruiter or the sales part, right? But the marketing and the tech allows you to not have a massive headcount.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You can really get more from your people by leveraging the right outsource on tech and the right marketing partner. That might be outsourcing. That might be bringing somebody in-house. But yeah, interesting. So then, what's the game plan then for Prominence? So you've without sounding horrible, you're in a fortunate position in that you've bought a brand that's established, it's got long-standing customers. As with most kind of management changeover and stuff like that, there's going to be pinch points of some clients will kind of be like, okay, well maybe it's time we start shopping around then and that kind of thing. So that's obviously a challenge.
Yeah.
But is the plan to kind of go, okay, let's try and maintain this? Is it to grow this out? If it's to grow this out, what's the, do you know what I mean? Like, what's the angle that you're going through? I mean, in my head, I'd be sitting there thinking, all right, well, hey, 11 investments. You think I do a good job, right? So, you can still use me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But like, is that kind of the plan, or is it more of a, actually, do you know what, I'm going a different route?
No, and I think, it's a really good point you raise. And I think when there's ever an acquisition, there's always going to be pain points from other staff going to stay. Obviously you don't automatically take on the staff. You have to offer them, employment, and they can choose to refuse. And thankfully they've all stayed across the globe, which on one hand makes my life easier because the clients have stayed. Like, bar a name above a door in month 1, nothing's changing. Yeah. To your point, kind of the plan and prominence, and one thing, and I've seen businesses scale very quickly and arguably very successfully and gone to a really great exit. that isn't what I'm looking to do or why I bought it. I think I'm more of a slow burn in terms of whether it's being.
Took you long enough to take the
Yeah,
job. So you're like, I'm going to enjoy this.
Take another 20 years. So, and I think for me, the success we've seen or I've seen working with founders successfully is relationship building and being that value add. And looking at the staff retention that we've got, the quality and, the deep dive that I did in terms of what they were doing we weren't just the colouring department, we're doing a PSL deck or this, that and the other.
How much work are we
Yeah.
doing for these guys? How embedded are we?
How embedded. And, we're a marketing agency / a sales enablement agency. And we have to be successful. To your point is people might turn at the point of acquisition and be like, look, we've been with you guys a couple of years. We've never really thought about it. Maybe now's a good time to, look at other great agencies that may be out there, or we're going to bring somebody in-house. Unfortunately, 99% of the conversations we have are, we've never had to justify what we have done pre-me with the team. I mean, Amber's been a managing director for 5 years. She knows all of the clients inside out, and arguably more than she should, down to the nitty-gritty of what the account managers are doing. And that speaks volumes in terms of how embedded we are. So that, selfishly, for me to be in a position to be able to buy this is unbelievably lucky, because setting up on your own is phenomenally hard.
Yeah.
You've got to have the right people around you. And, it's funny because people, when I bought it, go, oh, congrats, well done you on buying this. And I keep going, it makes me cringe because it wasn't just me. Like, sure, I led it, but the people that have supported me over the 9 months, deserve an unbelievable amount of credit. My wife obviously being one of them. And it's not just one person. And I think it goes back to your question of what's next. We've got great people. They're either ex-recruiters, ex-marketing recruiters, or huge marketing experience. I want to build the business on that foundation, that brand awareness, that brand reputation, and the reputation of the employees, and the network and the relationship they've got with our clients. So selfishly, we're in a really good position to build, and we will build, and we'll, I think when I was chatting to Chris initially, as you do, go, where'd your leads come in? How does business work? He's like, he's such a laid back guy. He's like, we just get a lot of inbound, and I'm like, oh, okay. And he's like, yeah, that runs the business for us. We're really well known here and there, and we get a bit of, oh, so what's your outbound strategy? And I've come from, companies that
having to
do
fight
that.
for business.
Yeah, absolutely. In the kind of investment world, there's a lot of options, and so we've always kind of promoted that, and so I want to do that kind of to some extent. I'm not doing that to win business, drive business, and have KPIs of 10 a month and this, that, and the other, because we'll crumble. You've got to do it organically, and as we build bigger, we'll be able to do that quicker. But I want to do it with the same people, with the right people, and the people that add value to our clients. But also service offerings. We never will ever compete with the marketing agencies that are specialists in personal branding, EDMs or podcast specialists. We've got specialists in those areas. It's quite a linear model. The fact that we've got specialists in there, and we work with SMEs that can't afford to work with 10 agencies, don't have a 6-figure budget, can't afford to hire 6 marketing people, but have enough that they want to outsource, and 2-3 times a week we're working them on certain projects, and we will grow with our clients, and that will be our success. And I'd hope that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 head businesses, I want to look back and be like, I remember you, and do you remember? And now we are 20 heads and feel like we're part of their business.
But that's how you embed, and I think there's a real big thing within the sort of the B2B sales world of we constantly seem to want to attract new customers and win new business, but then it's almost like once we've got them over the line, churn is just expected and accepted, right?
Yeah.
We lose 25% customers a year.
Yeah.
Well, fucking look at that.
Yeah.
Like,
100%.
You could grow by 25% a year
Yeah.
if you just stopped these people leaving you. So are you onboarding the wrong type of people? Or is is your proposition not matching up to what their needs are? Are you over-promising and under delivering?
Yeah.
What is it? Because you could. It's much easier to reduce that 25% churn down to 2-3% than it is to win 25% business year on year. In addition to what you've already brought on, and there's almost too much of that. So that's music to my ears. That you're kind of like, well, actually, we'd rather go. All right, let's take our SME clients and take them on a journey and support them on that, because hey, they're going to spend more with us as they grow, rather than me
Absolutely.
trying to find 6 more of them from somewhere.
Yeah, and I don't know what the stat is kind of this or last year, but I think the stat was from Google. It's 14 times more expensive to acquire a new client than it is to build business in your own. And it's a kind of common mentality, but ironically, people very quickly look at. I'm not saying we would. We are obviously going to do BD and grow, but if the priority isn't retention, then the foundations of your business, you just become kind of like one of these businesses, and it's more in the tech side, so it's not really reflected in us. It's like BD people coming and going, and it's like you get a poor reputation. And I think you overpromise, you underdeliver very quickly, your staff turnover goes through the roof, and we will grow. We've got a great network, we've got a great community, we've got a great reputation.
But you can't not, right? If you're doing all those things right in those little, let's say little, you're putting all the little pillars in place, you can't not but grow, right? There's nothing else to do.
Yeah.
But if you if you're accelerating in one way, going right, we just want to onboard as many people as possible. That's when mistakes start being made, right? That's when you'll kind of go, okay, so I need another 3 heads in that office.
Yeah.
But I've onboarded these clients; they're coming on board, so I just need 3 people. Not I need the 3 best people suitable for my business and my culture and my team. I need 3 bums. I need 3 people who are capable enough to not walk into a door on the way in and deliver something. And that you see that you would have seen it as well, right? In recruitment businesses where we've focused so much on BD, we've won a handful of new PSLs, we've got volume work coming in, I now need to hire.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh crap, I've hired bad people.
Yeah.
And they start churning those people, which then impacts the culture.
Yeah.
Which in turn then impacts the sort of overall, business kind of foundation, because you're like, well, hang on a minute, no one really knows what they're doing anymore. There isn't really a culture. The good people that we had have also gone because it's all been flushed out, and you're kind of like left there with a shell of what we used to
have.
Which is why so many recruitment agencies that I speak to were like, the golden number for us was sort of 5 to 7 heads. As soon as we got over that, it got almost impossible to manage, and profitability dropped.
Yeah, and I think that the generic stat being kind of 75% of recruitment businesses don't grow above 7 heads, or 10 heads. And I think kind of going to your point about growth and our earlier point on culture and people is, if we did grow that quickly, and sure, we're never going to be consistently 2 to 5 clients a month, we'll go up and down. But if we don't hire the right people because we're a global company, we're really going to struggle on that culture side. Yeah. We're really going to struggle onboarding our teams and getting the best practice. That will cause issues. To your point earlier, I'm not going to be there to personally manage it. The managing director isn't going to be in 4 places at once. We've got senior people in the business that have been established for a while. And again, selfishly, another green tick light of why I bought the business, because I can't be in Australia, then New Zealand, then Malaysia, then London, then America. But what you can do is put the right people in the right places, give them the tools to be as good as they can be. And sure, we're never going to get it right 100% of the time. But if we're 80+%, and they're happy with what we're doing, that filters down to culture, and that benefits the clients at the end. And that's ultimately what we're trying to achieve, is be better for them. That we do have sticky clients that stick with us because they can focus. They don't need to worry about overheads from a marketing team. They don't need to worry about having a conversation 5 days a week, because arguably it's not always needed. No,
that's it. That's right. There you go then. Well, listen, I wish you genuinely all the best with this.
Appreciate
it sounds really exciting and stuff. So I'd love for you to come back on in a year's time and kind of let's do a reflective piece, and you'll be like, I don't know what I did.
Everything I said, delete it. Yeah, it'll be interesting. Benefit of hindsight and all that.
So I'm back at 11 investments.
Can you imagine? Well, the good thing is, in that hard conversation with 11 investments, to say, I know I've been here and we get on really well, and we've got really good strategies, and we've grown something like 60% in a year in terms of the JVs. Is I am still going to be part of 11 investments from a consultative point of view, and I think again, my aim isn't to bring Prominence into 11 investments. It wouldn't probably work. But I think having that relationship and building that with the founders is I think key for what I want to be doing in the future. And the learnings from that and into Prominence, and vice versa, we're going to be seeing completely different things that the founders of 11 never thought about, and arguably neither have I. So keeping those relationships in the industry, I think, is really important to me going forward, and hopefully it benefits both worlds.
Sounds good. Sounds good. How do guys reach out to you? How do they kind of engage with Prominence? Here's a chance to plug.
Little sales pitch. Yeah. I mean, look, we are based in New Zealand, Australia, Malaysia, UK, and the US. We're a 360 agency. We've got specialists in all of them, which means it is key to the success of our business. And they've been in Prominence for a long time. They know the good, bad, and ugly and what's worked. Just come through our website to see, which we're updating at the minute. LinkedIn, our managing director and myself are on there. So yeah, come through and have a chat. Even, I'm quite one of these people that I love to chat about it. It's not always about sales and new business and new clients. I'd quite happily have conversations with people because sadly I find it quite interesting how all these different businesses are doing.
It's fun, isn't it?
It is fun,
Nice to know what's going on outside of the four walls that you find
Absolutely.
yourself in.
Yeah, and everyone's different, and I love that in like the recruitment sector. It's how black and white one conversation could be to the next. So, open conversations and networking events I actually really genuinely enjoy.
Yeah, that's it. Well, look, mate, I really appreciate you taking time today. Thank you for listening, liking, subscribing, watching, and all the things that you guys do to keep us on top of the recruitment sector. So thank you very much. New episodes drop every Wednesday. We shall see you next week. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, man. Appreciate that.
Appreciate it.
That was good.
I love that chat. No, it's great.
Oh, that's exciting stuff. I'm just going to get him to turn everything off before these guys meet.